Today, I'm going to be winning Connor Bedard a Stanley Cup in NHL 23. Now, we all know who Connor Bedard is. Well, at least I hope you do. But I have seen some people critiquing Connor Bedard on his size. Pause. If his forearms are any indicator, my god. So I'm going to be making Connor Bedard 7 feet tall. That's right, a 7 foot tall Connor Bedard. There's also one catch. He's going to be ring chasing every single year. So basically, he's going to be joining the previous Stanley Cup winner every single season until he wins a Stanley Cup. Let's see how this goes. First off, we need to see which team Connor Bedard will start out on. So we are going to spin the wheel and see which team we get. We have the Minnesota Wild. Pray for Connor Bedard because he's going to be going to Minnesota. Connor Bedard will be a Minnesota Wild for his rookie season. Bedard will be starting out at an 89 overall. I mean, frankly, he deserves it. 71 goals in the WHL. I think that's only been done like one other time. The Minnesota Wild have a pretty decent team. He does have Kaprizov as his line mate, so that should be good. I think Connor will do just fine. We are on our way to 10K. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And turn notifications on so you don't miss a single upload. All right, year number 1, let's go. Minnesota would finish second in the Central with 45 wins. Connor Bedard would have 46 goals and 105 points in his rookie year. I mean, I guess if you put him at 6'9", he's basically unstoppable. Greatest player of all time. Somehow we swept Nashville in round number 1. Now we have the Winnipeg Jets in round number 2. We would beat the Winnipeg Jets in 7 games, and then we would beat Vegas in 6 games. And somehow now we're in the Stanley Cup Finals against Toronto. Please make it make sense. I guess it turns out 7 foot tall Connor Bedard is the greatest player of all time. Yes, even better than Nathan MacKinnon. Because Bedard wins the Stanley Cup in his rookie season. Well, there goes the video. Alright, we have a new plan. We are going to simulate 10 years and see how many Stanley Cups he can win. He's still going to be switching teams every single year to the previous Stanley Cup winner. So that would mean he stays with Minnesota for another season. Again, the greatest player of all time is Nathan MacKinnon. For now, that is until Connor Bedard passes him. Bedard would take home the Calder, obviously. Kaprizov would take home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard has now jumped up to a 93 overall. Kaprizov is also a 93 and Zuccarello is a 90. So this is an absolutely stacked first line. Minnesota would yet again finish second in the Central, this time with 51 wins. Bedard would have 44 goals and 92 points. So slightly worse than last season. Still a great year though. Nate Dogg continues to be the GOAT. Whose cock do you have to suck to be this good in NHL 23? Seriously though. The Avalanche would put a napkin over our head and proceed to skullfuck us. Shout out Jev. And the New York Rangers have won the Stanley Cup, which means Connor Bedard is going to be a New York Ranger next season. Man, Nathan MacKinnon, you gotta chill, buddy. Mika Zibanejad will take home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard is still a 93 overall, but the difference is he's on the New York Rangers, and this team is absolutely stacked. I mean, the top 6 is probably the best in the league, especially now with 93 overall Connor Bedard. The New York Rangers would end up finishing first in the Metro with 52 wins. Bedard would put up 39 goals and 82 points. Those stats are surprisingly low. Man, Nathan MacKinnon, you have to chill. My god, 66 goals and 123 points. We would lose in round number 2 in 7 games to the Penguins. The Vancouver Canucks end up winning the Stanley Cup. That means Connor Bedard is going to his hometown team. Honestly, I'm getting sick and tired of this. He takes home the Lady Bing too. JT Miller takes home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard is a 94 overall. He's playing on a line with Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser. Vancouver would end up finishing second in the Pacific with 41 wins. Connor Bedard would score 40 goals but only had 77 points. Somehow his point total each year is going down, even though his overall is going up. Quinn Hughes put up 90 points with 81 assists. Finally, Nathan MacKinnon does not lead the league in points. We would end up losing to the Oilers in round number 2, and they would actually go on to win the Stanley Cup, meaning Connor Bedard and Connor McDavid are going to be teammates. That is going to be exciting. Connor McDavid takes home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard now is a 95 overall, and he's on a line with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, so it looks like he's getting that Shoresy treatment. Now, if this team does not win the Stanley Cup, that's pretty embarrassing. 94, 99, 95. There's absolutely no reason this team should not win the Stanley Cup. The Oilers would finish first in the Pacific with 56 wins. First in the entire league as well. Connor Bedard would score 38 goals and have 103 points. Bedard would finish second only behind his teammate Connor McDavid in points in the entire league. We would end up losing in the second round to the Calgary Flames in 5 games. The New York Rangers would end up taking home the Stanley Cup yet again. So that means we are going back to New York. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. Artemi Panarin takes home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard is a 95 overall, and he's back on a line with Artemi Panarin and Patrick Kane. Somehow this team wins 2 Stanley Cups without Bedard, but cannot win one with him. Seems a little fishy to me, but anyways. The Rangers would finish first in the Metro with 53 wins. Connor Bedard would absolutely bust his nut on the NHL. Pause. He would score 54 goals and have 122 points. He would have 54 goals and 122 points. Ovechkin and Kucherov would both both have more goals, but not more points, as Bedard wins his first Art Ross. We would end up making the conference finals, but lost to Boston, who then would go on to win the Stanley Cup. So Connor Bedard is going to be a Boston Bruin next season. Connor Bedard actually had a pretty big playoff run, 8 goals and 23 points in only 18 games. Bedard would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. The Conn Smythe would go to Brad Marchand. Bedard is a 96 overall, and I don't think there was a better place for him than Boston. In real life, the Boston Bruins just hit 60 wins, so we should have a very good regular season. He's going to be on a line with Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. Boston would actually finish second in the Atlantic with 54 wins, only behind Toronto. Damn, Toronto must have had a great regular season, huh? Connor Bedard would have another great season. He had 56 goals and 119 points. Yet again, he would lead the entire NHL in points. Take that, Nathan MacKinnon. So we have the Stanley Cup final of the century. Connor Bedard takes on his former team, the Minnesota Wild, who he actually won a Stanley Cup with, as they face Bedard's Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup final. And the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup. Connor Bedard captures his second Stanley Cup of his career as he defeats his old team, the Minnesota Wild. And there he is, Connor Bedard takes home the Conn Smythe Trophy, playoff MVP, and there it is, the Stanley Cup. And here he is, Connor Bedard, lifting the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his career. Scratch that, the second time in his career that he will be lifting the Stanley Cup. In the playoffs, Connor Bedard would score 16 goals and have 29 points in 22 games. Playoff MVP. Connor Bedard just takes home all the awards, including the Conn Smythe. This means Bedard will be back for another season with the Boston Bruins. He's a 97 overall, and he's going to be back on the line with Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. I guess Bergeron retired in the offseason. I have no idea where he's at. You know what that means? Bedsy. Boston would have a worse record than last season, but still finished third in the Atlantic with 43 wins. Connor Bedard actually had a very bad year, 29 goals, 82 points. That is not going to cut it, Bedsy. Meanwhile, his two line mates both had over 40 goals and 100 points. The Rat would actually have the most points out of any player. My God, look at that nose. We would lose in Game 7 of round number 1 to the Lightning, and the New York Islanders would end up winning the Stanley Cup, which means Bedard is going to Long Island. At least that's where I think they're at. I could be wrong. Regardless, he's heading to New York, this time for the Islanders, not the Rangers. Matthew Barzal would take home the Conn Smythe. Connor Bedard is still a 96 overall. He's on a line with Andres Lee and Matthew Barzal. Honestly, I have no idea how this team won the Stanley Cup last year, but hopefully now with Bedard, we can go back to back. The New York Islanders would finish first in the Metro with 50 wins. Connor Bedard would go full Connor McDavid and put up 149 points. He had 74 goals and 75 assists. That is insane. Obviously, he would have the most goals and points in the entire league. There's a new GOAT now, Nathan MacKinnon. Somehow we would lose in the second round to the New York Rangers, and Connor Bedard is going back to his hometown team for the last season as the Vancouver Canucks beat the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup final. Bedard would take home basically all the awards. Quinn Hughes would take home the Conn Smythe. For the 10th and final year, Connor Bedard is a 97 overall. How fitting is it that Connor Bedard finishes his last season with the Vancouver Canucks, his hometown team? It is time to go out with a Stanley Cup, Bedsy. Vancouver would finish first in the Pacific with 49 wins. Connor Bedard would score 43 goals and 93 points, which could not beat the greatest player of all time. The GOAT is back. We would end up losing to the Anaheim Ducks in round number 2. That is embarrassing. And the Boston Bruins would take home the Stanley Cup yet again. Connor Bedard would score 7 goals and 6 assists for 13 points in 12 playoff games. Brad Marchand would take home another Conn Smythe. And that's going to do it for Connor Bedard's ring-chasing career. Thank you boys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.